Okay, let's unpack this. That moment your salary lands in your account feels pretty good.
Right, definitely.
But then, before you know it, maybe the month isn't even over and it feels like it's already gone AWOL.
Mm-hmm.
You might be sitting there thinking, am I the only one this happens to?
Yeah, it's such a common feeling. And, well, if that resonates with you, you're definitely not alone.
So today on the deep dive, we're zeroing in on exactly why your hard-earned money might be pulling this disappearing act.
And it's really interesting when we look at this, especially, in a diverse financial landscape like India. It's often about more than just your individual spending habits. There are some underlying patterns at play.
Precisely. And to help us understand these patterns and maybe find some real solutions, we're taking a deep dive into the insights from why your salary ends before the month-end practical solution.
Right. He's got some very practical advice, specifically tailored for the Indian context, it seems.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to explore together today.
So this deep dive is really designed with you, the listener, in mind. Whether you're actively sort of grappling with this monthly financial crunch, or maybe you're just looking to build a more resilient financial future.
Yeah, we want to move beyond just the usual basic budgeting tips,
Yeah.
get into a more strategic understanding of how to really take control of your money.
Hmm.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to break down the main reasons why your salary might feel like it's playing hide and seek.
Mm-hmm.
Understand a modified take on that well-known 5-30-20 rule that Wariku proposes, specifically for India,
Okay.
and explore his unique no-option system. It's all about building better financial discipline.
Sounds intriguing.
Plus, we'll touch on why having an emergency fund isn't just like a good idea, it's essential, and get a basic understanding of long-term investment strategies.
Always keeping the unique financial realities of India in focus, yeah.
Absolutely. Always keeping that context in mind for you.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then. Wariku offers this really helpful way to think about where money typically goes. He talks about these three circles of spending.
The three circles, right?
What aspects of this framework sort of immediately stand out to you?
Well, the first circle he highlights is the family circle. And this one really hit home for me.
Hmm.
It's all those contributions, maybe to parents, those unexpected family health issues that just pop up.
Right. Always unexpected.
Gifts for relatives, birthdays, weddings, the drill. Then there's home repairs, maybe helping out family members like a broken bicycle, someone needing a bike.
Yeah, all those things.
What's really striking is just how unpredictable these expenses can be. It makes them so tricky to budget for accurately.
That's such a key point, that inherent unpredictability of the family circle. It's what makes traditional, rigid budgeting quite difficult for many of us, especially in India. The strong emphasis on family support, those close-knit relationships. It often means this circle takes up a significant chunk of income, and it can fluctuate quite a bit.
Definitely. Then we have the second circle, the survival circle. Now, this sounds straightforward essentials, right? Rent, utilities, food.
The must-haves.
But here's where it gets interesting for you. Wariku also includes our little indulgences or convenience spending in this category.
Oh, okay. Like what?
Think about eating out, ordering in, those quick commerce apps that deliver almost instantly.
Yes. The temptation is real.
It's so easy to find yourself caught in what he calls the jungle of convenience.
Jungle of convenience. I like that.
A few taps here and there, and suddenly a significant chunk of your salary can just disappear on things that individually felt quite small. Does that sound familiar at all?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
It's fascinating how those seemingly small, frequent convenience purchases can really, really add up. What's important for you to consider here is the cumulative effect. It's not just the big, obvious expenses, but being mindful of those smaller, almost subconscious expenditures. They can really erode your finances without you fully realizing it.
Totally. And finally, we arrive at the future circle, the one we all hope to contribute more to.
The aspirational one.
Yeah. This is where you allocate money, as in Wariku's words, a gift to your future self. Thinking about investments, building that financial safety net for later, really harnessing the power of compounding.
Right.
But the common reality, as he points out, is that after dealing with the demands of the family and survival circles, there often isn't much left to actually put into this crucial future circle. It's almost like our future well-being often takes a back seat to immediate needs and obligations. Can you relate to that feeling?
Oh, definitely. That's such a critical observation. This imbalance you've described between the circles is often the core reason why salary seems to vanish so quickly. You might have the best intentions for your future, but those immediate pressures can just easily take precedence.
Yeah.
And this leads us perfectly into a discussion about the 50-30-20 rule. You've likely heard of the standard framework, haven't you?
Yes, the classic 50-30-20 rule, generally it's like 50% of income to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% towards investments.
Mm-hmm. The standard.
It's a simple guideline,
Yeah.
but Wariku argues that in the Indian context, especially considering, varying income levels and those strong family obligations we just talked about,
Right.
this standard rule might not always be the most practical.
Exactly. So he proposes some adjustments.
Yeah, some interesting adjustments for you to consider.
He offers a kind of tiered approach based on different salary ranges. It acknowledges that the cost of needs and the extent of family contributions can differ significantly depending on your income.
Okay.
Let's look at some of these adjustments. They might be more applicable to your situation. For someone earning around, say, $25,000 a month, he suggests more like a 60-30-10 split.
632 Zeno. Okay, so more on needs.
Yeah, 60% for needs, roughly a 15,000 darrow covering food, transport, family contributions, medical stuff. Then 30% for wants, that's 7,500.
Okay.
Which, could go towards personal desires if family demands aren't too high. Otherwise, it gets allocated there.
Right.
And a starting point of 10% for investment. What are 2,500? What are your initial thoughts on how that adjustment might fit?
It seems like that extra 10% allocated to needs for that income bracket,
Mm-hmm.
it really acknowledges the tighter finances, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And the potential for higher essential family expenses at that level. And starting with a smaller investment percentage, like 10%, also feels more realistic maybe.
Right.
For someone just starting out with a lower income.
Absolutely. It's about setting achievable goals. Right?
Yeah.
He then moves up the income scale. For a 35,000 salary, the breakdown shifts a bit. 55% for needs.
Okay, down slightly.
Yeah, around 19,250. Then 25% for family or wants, around 8,750, and 20% for savings, around 7,000.
So savings jumps to 20% there.
Exactly. Notice how the needs allocation slightly decreases as income rises, while the portions for both savings and that combined family wants category increase. How does that progression sit with you?
That feels quite logical, actually. As income increases a bit, there's a bit more room to allocate towards, both discretionary spending or supporting family, and crucially, towards building that savings and investment base.
Mm-hmm.
That jump to 20% for savings at this level feels like an important step towards, greater financial security for you.
Definitely. Moving further along, for a 45,000 salary, Wariku suggests 50% for needs.
Back to the standard 50%.
Right, 22,500. Then a flexible 20-30% for family wants. That's a range 9,000 to 13,500, and a recommended 20% for savings, ideally aiming for 10,000.
Okay, so flexibility in that middle chunk.
Yeah. Here, the standard 50% for needs is back, but there's flexibility in how the rest is divided between family and personal desires, with a strong emphasis on you trying to hit that 20% savings target, maybe even aiming for that specific 10,000 figure.
Does that flexibility seem important?
I think so. The flexibility in that family wants allocation is interesting because it acknowledges that your individual priorities and family situations can still vary quite a bit, even if your income is similar to someone else's.
True.
And that clear target, trying to save 10,000 darrow, is a good way to help you build a more concrete savings habit. It's less abstract than just saying 20%.
Makes sense, like a tangible goal.
Exactly. Finally, for a 75,000 salary, the proposed allocation is 45% for needs.
Needs drop again.
Yeah, around 33,750. A larger 25% specifically for family, around 18,750. A smaller 10% for wants, around 7,500. And still 20% for saving investment, which is $15,000.
What stands out there?
Well, that significant drop in the percentage for needs at this higher income level really highlights that as income grows, a smaller proportion needs to go towards basic survival costs.
Right.
Also, the distinct separation, a larger chunk for family, a smaller portion for personal wants, suggests a shift in priorities that might come with increased financial capacity and responsibility for you.
And keeping that 20% savings steady.
Yeah, maintaining that 20% for savings, even with these other allocations, shows a continued commitment to your future financial well-being.
It's really important, though, isn't it, that Wariku stresses these aren't rigid rules.
Absolutely crucial for you to understand that. He calls them a guiding light, not rules carved in stone.
Yeah.
He acknowledges the vast array of individual circumstances living at home versus independently, the city, cost of living, commuting costs, remote versus office work. all that stuff.
So the key takeaway for you is,
Use this adapted 5D30-20 framework as a flexible guideline, not a strict boundary, to help you manage your needs and desires while consistently saving for your future. Find what works for your situation.
that makes perfect sense, finding that balance that truly works for your specific situation. Okay, now, we've talked about setting budgets, but Wariku also delves into a really interesting, maybe more effective concept for actually enforcing financial discipline. He calls it the no-option system.
Ah, yes, the no-option system.
Can you tell us more about how this works?
Well, this system directly tackles the, let's face it, often unreliable nature of willpower and motivation when it comes to sticking to budgets and saving consistently.
Motivation fades.
Exactly. Wariku suggests essentially creating a sense of compulsion. By designing a financial system that inherently limits your choices in the moment, you might be tempted to overspend.
Okay, compulsion through system design. How?
The foundation for you is the 3-account approach.
Right. He recommends having 3 separate accounts besides your main salary account. What are their specific purposes?
Okay, first is your daily expenses account. This is specifically for regular essential spending, day-to-day needs, groceries, transport, that sort of thing.
Got it. Essentials.
Second is your family desires account. This is where you'd allocate funds for those family contributions we talked about, or for your discretionary spending, the wants, not the needs.
Family and fun money, kinda.
Sort of, yeah. And the third, and maybe most crucial for your long-term financial health, is a dedicated investment account. Strictly and solely for investments.
Okay, so 3 separate financial buckets. Now, how does the no option part actually come into play for you?
The key for you lies in setting up standing instructions with your bank.
The automatic part.
Exactly. As soon as your salary hits your main account each month, you automatically transfer predetermined amounts into each of these 3 accounts. Daily expenses gets its share, family desires gets its portion, and most importantly, your investment account automatically receives its designated funds.
All happening without you having to manually do it each month.
Precisely.
I see the no option now. So the decision to save and invest isn't a monthly battle of willpower.
Nope.
It's already taken care of, right at the start. And any money left in your main salary account after these transfers, that just becomes your initial emergency fund.
Basically, yes. That remaining amount can serve as the start of your emergency buffer. It's a really clever way to build in that discipline.
Yeah, seems quite effective. What are the main benefits you see?
Well, several key benefits for you. It significantly reduces the temptation to dip into your investment funds because they're immediately separated and earmarked.
Out of sight, out of mind, almost.
Kind of. It also gives you a clear, measurable outcome. You can easily track how much is in each account and how you're spending within those categories.
Right.
And most fundamentally, it removes that recurring monthly decision. Should I invest this month? It just becomes a non-negotiable part of your financial routine.
That makes so much sense for taking the mental load out of it for you. Now, speaking of that leftover amount, Wariku also emphasizes another absolutely critical piece, the emergency fund. Why is this so vital?
An emergency fund is your financial safety net. Simple as that. It's there to protect you from derailing your plans when unexpected stuff happens.
Which it always does, right?
Exactly. Job loss, a sudden medical issue, a major car repair. Without this safety net, you might find yourself forced into high-interest debt, running up credit cards, or even having to sell your long-term investments early.
Yeah, which totally hinders your progress.
Yeah.
So how much should you ideally aim for in that fund to feel secure?
Wariku suggests aiming for enough to cover anywhere from 3 to 12 months worth of your essential living expenses.
3 to 12 months of essentials.
Yeah. So, for example, if your basic monthly needs are, say, $10,000, you should ideally strive to save between $30,000 and $120,000 in your emergency fund.
Okay.
The specific amount that feels right for you depends on your own situation, job security, dependence, things like that.
That range gives a good target. But what about keeping it accessible? You need it quickly in an emergency.
That's a really important point for you. While you need that cushion, Wariku cautions against keeping too much of it just sitting in a regular savings account with, very low return.
Right, it loses value to inflation.
Exactly. The main goal of your emergency fund is security and liquidity, easy access, not necessarily high growth. So he suggests parking it in safer, more liquid options, maybe fixed deposits or possibly some types of debt mutual funds.
Things that are generally safer and easier to access than long-term investments.
Precisely. They might offer slightly better returns than a basic savings account while still allowing relatively easy access if an emergency hits.
Okay, that's a helpful distinction for managing those emergency savings. Now, once you have that safety net sorted, and you're consistently putting money into your investment account via the no option system,
Hmm.
what kind of investment approaches should you be considering for long-term health?
Well, Wariku rightly emphasizes that your strategy really depends on your individual risk tolerance and your age. Those are key factors.
Makes sense.
For those of you who are relatively new to investing, he strongly recommends starting with mutual funds rather than trying to pick individual stocks directly.
Why are mutual funds generally a better starting point for beginners like you?
Well, because mutual funds are professionally managed. You have experienced fund managers whose whole job is to make investment decisions for you.
Right, they do the research.
They have the expertise, the resources to research and select a diversified portfolio of stocks or other assets. That diversification significantly helps reduce your overall investment risk.
And SIPs, systematic investment plans.
Ah, yes. Investing through an SIP in mutual funds is a particularly effective way for beginners like you to get started. It's disciplined, it's gradual. Think of it like a regular contribution to your future wealth, automating the investment process.
And this is where that amazing power of compounding really kicks in over the long term, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Wariku shares some really compelling examples, even with just $1,000 a month.
They are quite eye-opening. Let's look at how those numbers could potentially play out for you. If you invest 1,000 euros per month and earn an average annual return of, say, 12%.
Which is kind of like a nifty 50 benchmark return, maybe?
Yeah, a reasonable expectation from a broad market index fund over the long term, so 12%. Over 10 years, your total investment is 1.2 lakh, but the total value with compounding could be around 2.24 lakh.
Wow, almost double.
Extend that to 20 years. Your 2.4 lakh investment could potentially grow to about 9.2 lakh.
Okay, getting serious now.
And if you stay invested for 30 years, your total investment of 3.6 lakh could potentially balloon to a staggering 3.08 crore.
3 crores from 1,000 rupees a month. That really shows the power of time.
Imagine that kind of growth working for you. It's incredible.
And he also shows examples with potentially higher returns, right? Like 15% or 18%?
He does. For instance, at 15% may be achievable with mid-cap or flexi-cap funds, though usually with more ups and downs.
Higher risk.
Right.
Great.
Over 30 years, that euro 1,000 monthly investment could potentially become around 5.6 crore. And at 18%, more typical of small cap funds, but with even greater risk.
Oh, it's volatile.
Very. Theoretically, it could reach over an N crore. It really highlights the importance of starting early and staying consistent for you.
But there's a big but here, isn't there?
A huge caveat. It's really crucial for you to understand this. While those higher returns from small caps look tempting, they come with significantly higher risk and volatility.
So don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Exactly. As Wariku wisely advises, it would generally be a mistake for you to put all your capital into these high-risk, high-return categories, especially if you're just starting or have a lower risk tolerance. Diversification is key.
And he gives some age-based ideas for how to diversify, right? Like asset allocation suggestions.
He does, yes. Again, these are general guidelines for you to consider, but they offer a solid starting point.
Okay, like what?
For someone in their 20s, longer time horizon, maybe more growth-oriented, perhaps 30–40% in large-cap funds, 30% in mid-cap flexi-cap, and 30–40% in small-cap.
Or aggressive early on?
Kind of. As you move into your 30s, maybe shift slightly more balanced. 40–50% large-cap, 30% mid-cap, 20% small-cap.
Right.
By your 40s, perhaps more conservative.
Yeah.
Around 60% large-cap, 30% mid-cap, only 10% small-cap.
Reducing risk as you get closer to needing the money.
That's the general idea. And for those of you in your 50s and beyond, a generally recommended allocation is maybe 80% in more stable large caps, the remaining 20% in flexi cap or mid cap, typically avoiding those highly risky options.
Got it.
But remember, these are just suggestions to get you thinking. Your personal situation, your goals, your comfort with risk, those should always be the primary drivers for your investment decisions.
That's really valuable guidance for you to think about. Now, as important as all these financial strategies are, the circles, the rules, the systems, the funds, Wariku emphasizes one investment above all others.
Ah, yes, the big one.
What is that singular, most crucial investment you can make?
He firmly believes, and makes a strong case for it, that all financial investments, important as they are, come second to the most vital investment you can possibly make, investing in yourself.
Investing in yourself. Tell me more.
He backs this up with some pretty compelling evidence from his own life. Over 25 years, his hourly earning rate grew at an average of 48% annually.
Wow, 48% per year. That's incredible.
It is, and he directly attributes this remarkable growth to his continuous deliberate investment in his own education, acquiring new skills, building confidence, improving communication, expanding his overall understanding. This, he argues, had the most significant impact on his financial well-being, far more than any stock pick.
That really underscores the immense power of personal development for you. He shares examples, right?
Yeah.
Like studying abroad, doing an MBA.
Exactly. Studying in the U.S., pursuing an MBA, even with a loan, starting his own ventures, navigating challenges, constantly learning new things, even now as a content creator. It's a testament to the idea that your skills and knowledge are your greatest assets.
So the message is?
The message for you is the importance of being willing to take calculated risks in your own development, to allocate resources, time, money to education and skill enhancement. Even embracing the discomfort of being a beginner, maybe looking stupid sometimes, in order to learn. His core message to you is that by continuously investing in yourself, you are directly fueling your earning potential.
Which then increases your capacity to save and invest more later.
Precisely. It significantly increases your capacity for savings and investments, ultimately leading to greater financial security and the ability to overcome financial challenges.
It's a powerful reminder for you. While managing finances with budgets and rules provides that crucial framework, your own growth, your capabilities, your development, that's your most valuable asset, the most reliable path to long-term financial success.
Absolutely. By making a conscious effort to continually learn, grow, invest in yourself, you're truly laying the strongest foundation for a more secure and prosperous future.
Okay, so as we bring this deep dive to a close for you today, let's quickly recap the key insights. We've explored Wariku's framework for understanding why your salary might vanish too quickly.
Those three spending circles, family, survival, future, and how the first two can often overshadow the third.
Right. We looked at his modified 50-30-20 rule, tailored for different income levels in India, acknowledging things like family obligations and cost of living variations you might face.
Then the practical no-option system. Using those three accounts and standing instructions to build financial discipline by automating savings and investments.
We also stressed the absolute necessity for you to build a sufficient emergency fund, that financial buffer against life surprises.
And we covered a foundational understanding of investment approaches, the potential of compounding with SIPs and mutual funds, and thinking about age-appropriate asset allocation for your long-term goals.
But perhaps the most profound takeaway for you
Is the paramount importance of investing in yourself. While budgeting and investment strategies are crucial, they're most effective when built on a foundation of continuous personal and professional growth. That's what boosts your earning potential and financial resilience most reliably.
So, as you reflect on this deep dive, consider this for yourself. Managing finances with budgets and rules is essential, yes. But remember, you are ultimately your greatest asset. You're the key to your long-term financial success. Commit to continuous learning, personal growth, investing in your own development.
This discussion gave you a framework, some practical steps. Now, take some time to think about how you can apply these principles to your unique situation, how you can embark on that journey towards greater financial control and prosperity.
And maybe ask yourself this, what's one specific area of self-investment that you've been considering maybe putting off, but haven't yet prioritized? Perhaps taking that first step in that direction is the most important next move you can make for yourself.